Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 46, the week of May 24th, 2024. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Mads Patesi. Mads, how we doing?
We're going. We're on the cusp of a 3-day weekend, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
I always like extra days off that I don't have to pay for. And by pay for, I mean use my PTO.
Yeah.
Where they pay me. No.
So minor show note here, we will be off next week because we will both be at ATX. And then we'll be back to normal.
Were we ever normal?
Oh no. We will fully break it down when we come back, but
yeah, we're gonna get to see some cool stuff.
We'll see some cool stuff. See some cool people. It'll be the first time we see each other in person.
Yes.
So that'll be fun.
We'll see if we survive.
So let's talk about some news real quick. So we've had some cancellations and renewals. Let's start with the good news first.
Yeah, let's start.
The good news is that Wild Cards has been renewed at the CW.
Thank God.
Which is a show we both really like and are rather eager for a second season on. So that's good news. While everything else at CW is dropping like flies.
Related but unrelated, my roommate and I have been watching Riverdale very, very slowly. We're now at the point where Tony and Cheryl start to canoodle. And I'm just like, I love Morgan. She's just so wonderful.
She is, yes. The CW made very good choices in its casting along the years to get extremely charismatic people, of which Vanessa Morgan ranks high.
Yes. I almost said Lindsay. I was like, that's not the correct name. So I was just like, I know her last name is Morgan at least, so I'll just go.
I mean, Lindsay Morgan, also deeply charismatic.
Yes, but not the correct person.
Not the correct Morgan.
And in other related but unrelated news, I'm going to Fan Expo Chicago in August, and they just announced that Cole Sprouse is going. I was like, it's like he doesn't do conventions, so I'm just like, oh my god, I'm very excited. And Skeet Ulrich will also be at that one. I go, they better do FP and Jughead duos. Come on.
But speaking of the CW, and also kind of speaking of Lindsay Morgan, Walker has officially been canceled at the CW.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah, which honestly I stopped caring about once Lindsay Morgan left that show.
I never really cared about it. I tried. I really did. Because I like Keegan Allen, and so I tuned in for him, but I was like, I'm not intrigued enough with this show to even tune in just for you. Like, sorry, sir.
It is funny to me that this new CW is owned by Nexstar. Doesn't even have to pretend like they have gratitude towards Jared Padalecki for somewhat keeping them afloat for years, or helping to keep them afloat for so long. They can just cut him loose with no weight on their conscience.
They're like, oh, this show that's been going on for 5 years, bye.
Yeah.
And that made me realize when they said that it was canceled after 4 or 5 seasons, I was like, oh, you mean Supernatural's been off the air that long? I literally was like, I feel like it was just yesterday that show ended. Lockdown was a very long time. Because it ended right before lockdown.
Was that right before lockdown?
Yeah,
I feel like it was into lockdown because wasn't part of the thing that they couldn't film the finale right because of COVID.
Hold on. Oh yeah, you're probably right. Hold on. Let me see. I don't know why I thought late 2019. Maybe that's when it premiered, their final season.
No, yeah, because I think Walker's only been on since 2021.
Oh yeah, and it started late 2019, ended late 2020. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Because I know that was Lindsay Morgan's. She went off of the 100 to do that, and the 100 ended in mid 2020.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my god, it's been 4 years since Supernatural. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Which is funny because Supernatural's back in the news again for something like Super Happy. DJ Qualls and Ty Olson, who played Benny and Garth and Benny respectively, are now engaged, and everyone's just like, wait, they were dating? What? The twink werewolf and the beefy vampire? What? It was like mind blowing in the fandom, and I'm just like, that's so cute. And they, of course, DJ announced it on a podcast episode. Like, that's how he announced it. This show, man, the actors on this show are insane.
But with Walker gone, that just leaves All American and All American Homecoming as the. Is that right?
Oh, All American Homecoming is still on? Okay.
I believe so. I don't think it's been canceled yet.
I think it's on the cusp.
It's on the cusp. There's still rumors that it could be canceled, but it's still it's still active. But those remain the two remaining shows from like CW proper. Upsetting. More news that personally upset me. Girls on the Bus, which we covered on this podcast, has been canceled. I think fully kills whatever like staying power Julie Plec had as a TV creator and producer. Like after Vampire Academy was canceled and now Girls on the Bus, the power that Plec once had is just dead.
Yeah, but I feel so bad because I'm like, I'm 99% sure it is we don't want diverse programming on this fucking streaming service anymore, so we're getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
I truly think that's what it is, because like all that HBO Max has left, like I was looking at the For Your Consideration Emmy pamphlet for Max, and like most of the shows that are positioned on that pamphlet have been canceled or are only limited series, or they're like finishing up and not going to come back. Like it's just insane. And I'm just like, and the only ones that aren't are like House of the Dragon and what's that one that's the spin-off of Sex and the City? You know, like it's basic white girl stuff.
Right.
Very vanilla programming, and I'm like, it's so annoying. It's so frustrating. I even
point of order.
What?
I'm not sure we can say a show where a main character fucks her uncle's vanilla programming.
That's true. That's true. But like, it's okay. Fine. Basic girl programming. Because that's basically what House of Dragon is. Like that's basic bitch programming.
I just want to put that out there.
You're right. I used the wrong word. But like I was telling my friend last week when the For Your Consideration thing came out, I was like, it hasn't been canceled yet, but I was like, I guarantee you they're going to cancel Girls on the Bus, which is so disappointing because it's such a good show. But I was like, but that's why they're going to cancel it, because people actually kind of like it. I'm just very bitter about Max right now, so that's going to come out in everything I say.
I just like the idea you could have Melissa Benoist and Carla Gugino locked down.
Yep.
And you choose not to. Like, that's a baffling decision to me.
Right. Like, that's power duo right there. Like, I don't understand you, Max. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Scott Foley couldn't even save that show. Like, that's really disappointing.
I mean, Scott Foley also couldn't save his last show, so.
That's true. You're right.
And other news that upsets me. High School on Freevee was canceled, which premiered back in 2022 and was about the teenage lives of Tegan and Sarah Quinn of Sapphic band Tegan and Sarah, which I liked a lot. It was on my top 20. I think it was in my top 10 that year. And it's exceptional. I think everyone should go watch it.
Yep.
Kobe Smulders is also in it, giving a tremendous mom performance. It's so good. And I'd been waiting for a long time to see whether or not it would be renewed or canceled. I even tweeted just the other day wondering what the status was with the show. I self-actualized this, I think, and I feel bad about it.
How dare you?
How dare I? Actually, no, literally, how dare I? Because, like, I tweeted this and then, like...
put it out in the universe.
No, because, like, 2 days later, a friend of mine was like... They sent me the link to the article about it being canceled and was like, weren't you just talking about this? There's a quote from that Hollywood Reporter which broke the story, um, and it is a masterpiece of contradictions
Mm-hmm.
because Clea Duvall, who ran the show, had been given the green light to put together a mini room and start assembling scripts. But then, and this is the quote from Hollywood Reporter. Ultimately, sources say the completion rate for High School left Freevee and Amazon execs little choice but to cancel the series, despite the fact that scripts for an entire second season had already been completed.
Shut up.
So either we don't have anything to your liking, or we had an entire second season already mapped out. Like,
yeah,
but nonsense. I know people are going to say, "Oh, Drew's mad that another queer show got canceled." I am mad about that. I don't want anyone to be misled. But I am also mad that this show was this fucking good.
Yeah,
it was exceptional, and they canceled it because they're stupid. I'd also heard that Amazon is kind of shuttering Freevee as a service.
well, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Any streaming service that gives me things as good as High School and Jury Duty,
yeah,
as two of the only things you all have done, really.
mm-hmm.
They've done other things to a minor extent, but like these being like two of like the best big shining examples. High School showed up on a lot of end of year lists. It got a lot of critical acclaim. Yeah, it's so good. I encourage everyone to go seek it out and watch that first season. To a piece of news that actually delights me. Holly Hunter is gonna be on Starfleet.
I was wondering if you were gonna bring this up.
Yeah, of course I'm gonna bring it up. She's gonna be on Starfleet Academy as I forget what they said her actual role would be, but like basically the principal. She's basically going to be the principal of Starfleet Academy. She has been cast as a captain and chancellor of Starfleet Academy. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So basically the principal of Starfleet. Basically the principal of the high school.
I want her to be my principal.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
It's like what that's inspired casting. It's so good. I can't wait.
I can't either. It's been such a while since I've seen her in something, and I'm like, I miss her. I love her. She's gonna be great in the Star Trek universe. Like, you just know it. She's gonna command a presence on the grounds of Starfleet Academy.
It's so perfect. But let's jump into the GOAT. So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads pick a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other. So we are still doing our bracket. We are in the final round. And so for episodes, Star Trek The Next Generation, Measure of a Man, and Doctor Who, Vincent and the Doctor moved forward. And for characters, Donna Noble from Doctor Who and 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager moved on.
So it's the Who versus the Trek.
It is the Who versus the Trek, which I probably should have predicted.
Two of the biggest fandoms.
Yeah, I probably should have seen this coming. But as it stands right now, Measure of a Man is leading over Vincent and the Doctor, and it looks like that one will win. It's ahead by a considerable margin. Donna Noble and 7 of 9 is much more neck to neck.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is. If this is perhaps the most contentious pick that we've done in this bracket so far, with 7 of 9 barely in the lead.
Wow.
And by barely, I mean by a vote.
Oh, wow.
And it has been back and forth a lot. But if things go how it is right now, we will have our victors of 7 of 9 and Measure of a Man as winners of the GOAT. Interesting results. Out of everything that was in the bracket, I am a little bit intrigued by the results here. I'm not too surprised by Measure of a Man, because I think that was one of the stronger picks that we had, especially in this bracket. 7 of 9 has been a little bit of a dark horse. It's had to beat a lot of really good other picks.
They're a fighter.
They're going
to go down swinging.
But yeah, we still have a couple more days, so this could end up changing. Tumblr has really taken this and ran with it. When we come back in a couple weeks, we will be back to normal programming with new picks for the GOAT. So be sure to send in your own picks that you would like featured here, either by myself or Mads. And email us those at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll forward them on to you. Be sure to find all of our polls on whatever social media platform you're using these days: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, or TikTok. Without anything else, let's move on into the main part of our show. So to continue on with our rewatch of Adventure Time, we have season 9, episode 10, Abstract, season 9, episode 11, Ketchup, and episode 13, Whispers. So this is getting a little bit more into like the status quo of Adventure Time. We're kind of settling back into the groove a little bit. So what did you think? Let's start with
I'm glad that almost immediately post that evening shot at the end of the miniseries where Jake and Finn reunite and Jake's the big blue guy. Like, I love that the next morning when they're having breakfast, like, Finn calls him out on it. He's like, listen, bro, you're not normal. You're not the same. You're bigger and you have 5 eyes and you're blue and you have appendages that keep coming out. Like, him and Bebo just like kind of call him out on it. And I found that interesting. And I kind of like thought to myself, like, season 1 Finn would have just ran with it and not said anything. But now we're in season 9 Finn, who's more seasoned and like questions things a bit more.
right.
And I like that we get to see that growth with this situation.
I do think it's the difference between like being a child and like growing up. Because I feel like when you're a kid, things just happen and you go, yeah, that's the normal. These are
Right.
just the way things happen. And then like especially like when you get into like your teenage years and like into like young adulthood, you're like, no, wait, that's not right.
This was the episode that we saw Jake's family again, right?
Yeah.
Or is this the next? Okay, I was making sure it was the right episode because I was like, I know we saw his dad and his brother again, so I was just like, wait, which episode was this? When I watch all 3 of them together, they mold together. So it was fun to see, dad and brother again because we haven't seen them in a while, or at least not in the episodes we've been watching. And I liked that the brother was like, you look like one of my paintings. Like in his posh, pretentious voice, he's like, you look like one of my paintings.
Yeah, I do love this show's relationship with with Joshua, Jake's dad. Because he's dead and he's been dead a long time. But the show keeps coming up with reasons for him to come back.
Right. He's like a character from Supernatural. You never really die.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, like he has shown up more times on this show than most supporting characters. Tom Sharpling coming back as Jermaine is just great, and like that voice is so good.
Love it. I love hate Jermaine, so it's always fun when he's around.
Yes. Yeah, this was like, I think this was like, when they made this was like 2015 or 2016, so it was like Steven Universe at like some of the height of its power. you know? So it's like, yeah, Tom Sharpling coming here, who played Greg Universe on Steven Universe. Yeah, it's just great.
Right. Like, you were able to get him.
Yeah, yes. But also, like, him as an actor, like, I feel like he had fully settled into, like, Greg, so, like, he knew how to just, like, slip into Jermaine.
And I also just feel, though, as, like, a very, very generalization, a lot of voice actors are very much, I can slip in and out of voices and characters fairly quickly because they have to.
Right. Absolutely.
So I always forget that he was George Universe. Because I don't keep track of voice actors as steadily as I do other actors. I should, but I have not yet gotten good at that.
It's an interesting episode about like things you start to consider like once you get into like this age of like
Mm-hmm.
you know later teenage years of like especially like where Finn is like almost 17 now of like
Yeah.
oh things are changing and that's weird and I don't know how to feel about that.
Right, he's questioning. He's also just questioning the way he was brought up. Like, in a way, he's like questioning like all these things that he's been taught over the years, and he's like, "Wait a minute, wait a minute. I've never thought this was weird. Maybe I should have thought this was weird." Like, he's very much like, "Okay, this is odd. Um, I need to go process that now." And poor BMO is just like having a nervous breakdown. Just like, he's just like, what?
well like it's almost an indictment on like the like ultra accepting families,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like what you are is perfectly okay, and anyone who makes you feel that it's not okay is wrong and stupid and bad. And that's good and noble and laudable, but also sometimes you have to have self-analyzation. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to look at yourself and be like, wait, is this good or is it bad? The traits I have, are they things I should be keeping on to or things I should be growing out of?
Exactly. And like, Finn never says to Jake that he has a problem with who Jake is now. He's just like, I just need understanding. I need to understand why you are a giant blue creature now with 5 eyes. Like, I need to understand this. He's like, what are you talking about? I've always been like this. No, no, you haven't, Jake.
Right.
It's that healthy balance of acceptance and questioning to better understand.
I don't think it's one of Adventure Time's like more elegant allegories, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
If we stretch enough, we find it.
Yeah.
We'll just use Jake's arms.
Like there is a problem with the episode of like the episode introduces powers for Jake that it just fully does not address ever again. And that's a problem.
It doesn't it doesn't even try to explain them. It just kind of just is, and you're just like, okay.
Where like Jake has kind of weird psychic powers now. It's like, okay, you're never like the show never does anything with that. And it's kind of frustrating.
Oh, I hate when that happens with TV shows.
I think it wants to have its cake and eat it too. Of like things are changing for Jake, but also we like yellow dog Jake, so we have to keep it as like that status quo.
Right.
So we can't take too many steps forward, but we're not willing to take any steps back either. So it leaves the show like a weird gray area as far as like the characterization for Jake is concerned. Let's move on to Ketchup, which is
We
just
get Marceline.
yeah, just a Marceline and BMO kind of bottle episode. It's very
Yeah, they're
contained.
literally just telling each other stories.
Yeah. And I love the dichotomy between the two stories that BMO and Marceline plays. Where like
Yep.
you can't trust BMO to tell you an accurate story.
Right.
It's
BMO, like, you have to think of it from this perspective. BMO is a toddler.
exactly yeah. BMO has
BMO
boundless
has no maturity in that brain.
yeah, and he has boundless potential for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
anything that can happen in a story by BMO can happen and probably will happen. I really love the animation style for BMO's story. It's so it really captures like the weird off kilterness of the stories that BMO's telling. It's just so
Yeah.
weird. I do kind of appreciate the regular show disc with the annoying Blue Jay.
I saw that and I was like, what is the cartoon that they're making fun of? I know it, like I see it in my brain. I cannot picture the name.
Definitely making fun of Mordecai on regular show, which
Yeah.
is great. And I think they even got that voice actor to come and do this, if I'm not mistaken. And I love Marceline's reaction to that of like, what am I looking at here?
I also just think Marceline is a good storyteller, and I feel like that doesn't always get talked about. Obviously, you would think that that's something that people would assume about her, considering she's a musician, artist, singer. Like, there's some elements of storytelling in that, but like, she like legit can tell a fun story. Like,
Definitely. And it's the fun thing about Marceline where she's farther along maturity wise than like BMO is. But she's still
mhm,
very, very stunted by design. You know? Like
right.
she is and this was something that, came up a lot in stakes of like she is kind of, frozen in a developmental sense.
From when she like and a lot of vampire lore does that.
Yeah.
So that's very much in line with typical vampire lore that like once you've been bitten, that's the age you kind of get stuck in.
Yes. So it's in like that sweet balance of like her still technically being between an adult and a child. So she's far
Hmm.
enough along to be like, I can recognize this is a bullshit story, but also
Right.
it's great and delightful, and I love it.
Yeah,
And I
she's
can
like
make up my own story too.
right. I really appreciated that with BMO's story. She was like, I feel like I've heard this story before, but I don't think it went quite like that. She's like,
Yeah,
which is her way of being very nice about being like, BMO, you're full of shit,
you're full of shit.
without
Yeah,
actually saying you're full of shit.
Marceline's story too is delightful.
Very delightful.
Just the most repressed person, just fully unwilling to admit to herself or anyone else that she has a crush, and
On
apparently
Petey.
has done so for centuries. I mean, it's hard to get a timeline of Adventure Time, but
Yeah.
supposedly for centuries, theoretically. But yeah, I love the kind of both like joy of that story and also like the melancholy, very like gay melancholy at the end of
Hmm.
like I tried to help the person that I'm basically in love with and I couldn't, and then I turned into a marshmallow.
It turned into a marshmallow. Yeah, it's very you definitely get the sense of like if you don't look too deeply, it's a very nice story. But then if you stare at it long enough, you're like, oh no, that's sad.
Yeah, yeah. What I love Bebo like calling her out on it. Of like even Bemo's like that's not. Come on.
They balance each other out.
Yeah. Like I love the innocence of but she was you, right? Yeah. And then the
Nemo read you for filth there, Marceline.
yeah, truly. And then the stuff with the USB drive and return of Marceline's mom and the story that Bemo makes up about it.
Yeah,
It's just so heartbreaking.
it really is. Anytime they bring up Marceline's mom, I end up in tears
Yeah.
because it's just so sad.
And the fact that like this as far as the show is concerned, we still don't know what happened to Marceline's mom. It's like really, it's upsetting, and it's even more upsetting that like Marceline doesn't remember her mom until she's reminded of it.
Right.
Because her mom's been dead for over 800 years or something. Again, the timeline of
Yeah.
Adventure Time is weird, but we think at 800 years, 800 to 1,000 years. But this is also a good reminder that hey guys, Marceline is half black. Don't forget that she's half black and half demon.
Well, and I'm definitely one of those people that forgets that she's half black. And then when I'm reminded, I'm like, oh, why did I forget that? Like, how is that not something that sticks in my brain?
Right. Let's switch it over to Whispers, which is delivering on a lot of the quiet promise of Fern as a character. Hey, there's this grass guy who's possessed by a weird grass octopus.
Right. And I like how he subtly reminds us all the time that he has the same history and memories as Finn. Like Finn goes to tell him a story and he finishes it and Finn's like, "Oh right, I forgot. Like you have my memories." I lived that.
Yeah, it's the sad tragedy of Fern that he is Finn in every way that could matter, except
Right.
for the octopus. It is the octopus that is like corrupting him in some way,
Right.
you know? That is feeding like Fern is an excellent representation of a teenager with a lot of toxic masculinity, who cannot help but to compare himself to others and feel so bad about that. Can only come away with like one of two conclusions: they're wrong or I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
which is so damaging. Which is something I love that the episode shined a light on.
I'm not sure how I feel about Fern yet. Like I'm still trying to process like okay, what are my general feelings about this character? I'm not saying that like I'm going to have to love or hate them, that's not the only options. I'm just still trying to figure it out because I feel like we're only just scratching the surface of Fern and who he is in relation to Finn. This episode does a good job of like helping us see more of that. Other than that, it was nice to see
Sweet Pea,
Sweet Pea, yes.
the Sweet
What was
Pea and
it?
the
The
Lich.
big, the big kid. I don't
Yeah,
know. I can't remember his name. Sweet Pea.
yeah, Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea and Fern have like this nice mirroring in this episode of like this idea of like self actualization or like
Mm-hmm.
things that you are expected to be. You know, Fern
Right.
expects himself to be Finn, and the Lich expects Sweet Pea to be the Lich. But Sweet Pea has decided that he is his own thing.
He's too kind for that.
Exactly. He was raised well.
Yes.
So like Sweet Pea gets to be whatever he wants to be now, and he isn't like ruled by this supreme force of evil. You know, like it's not a thing he's destined to be.
No, and I feel like Sweet Pea's that every once in a while, Adventure Time likes to bring Sweet Pea in and remind us that like there are some people who are just simply sweet, kind individuals who just want to see the good in others, but also to see others succeed. And that's like Sweet Pea in a nutshell.
And again, we've said it numerous times on the show, but Ron Perlman as the Lich, just perfect,
Fantastic.
just perfect.
I love Ron Perlman. Like I've seen him up close ish because I've been at conventions that he's been at, but I've never gone up to his table. Um, but like I've walked past and heard him talk to people, and he's just a gentle giant. Like you think that he's intimidating and potentially not very nice, but no, he's just so kind. He's very opinionated, but he's kind.
Yeah. So for next week, or for rather when we come back, uh, we'll be talking about season 9, episode 14, Three Buckets. And then moving into season 10 with episode 1, The Wild Hunt, and episode 2, Always Be Mo Closing. So let's move on to our next show. Because I'm going to talk about, we were going to continue Dimension 20 into the Unsleeping City. We were holding that off for until we come back. And instead, I'm going to talk about Dimension 20 is the latest season, Fantasy High Junior Year, which just wrapped up. And we talked about the first season, Fantasy High Freshman Year,
Mm-hmm.
earlier. And I think Fantasy High Junior Year is one of the best seasons that Dimension 20 has ever put out. Certainly the best it's done in the last couple years. At least as far as Intrepid Heroes campaigns go. Really exceptional. I nominated an episode from the season already for the GOAT. And you can go back and listen to my breakdown of that episode. Yeah, this season has just been so good. It's been so stressful. Just this idea of being in the 11th grade and having pressure put on you to be the certain thing and succeed and have achievements.
And be looking towards the future.
And yeah, always be looking towards the future and always be like trying to build and work to this certain thing. Me and Robin Jeffrey, me and friend of the show Robin Jeffrey, are planning on doing a full breakdown of this eventually. But yeah, this has just been so good. I think it didn't come together as cohesively as I would have liked, but I think it's still very good. I like the places that all the characters end up at. There were a couple moments this season that were just like all time Dimension 20. Allie Beardsley made Brennan want to quit Dimension 20 forever a couple times this season, which was delightful. Like there was more than one instance where Brennan gets up from the table and pretends like he's gonna leave. Like
Bravo, Allie Beardsley.
Allie Beardsley, I just want to say, was on another level this season of just chaos, which I admire. Just seems to have fully lost their mind.
I've loved them, obviously, since we watched and discussed freshman year, and so like this makes me so happy and looking forward to future.
It was a long season. It was a 20 episode season, but I feel very grateful to have watched it live. I feel very good about that. I don't know when we'll get senior year or if we'll get senior year. I truly hope we do one day, because there's a part of me that never wants to say goodbye to these characters.
Right.
These people are so beloved to me. I love them so much, especially the way that all of them play these characters. Just delightful. But yeah, keep a lookout for whenever me and Robin Jeffrey talk about this in full, because I'm sure there's a lot that we'll have to talk about. But until then, let's move on to Evil, which returned for its fourth season with episode 1, How to Split an Atom.
Let me just say before we dive into the episode, I tweeted this, but like, here we are going along the episode, and 20 minutes in, they do the open credits, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Why is it 20 minutes into the episode?
That is classic Robert and Michelle King shenanigans.
I was just like, okay, sure, that's what we're doing.
You're not gonna tell the Kings when to have their intro card. They'll have it where they please.
I'm so glad this show is back. I love it so much, and this episode in particular was a lot of fun because it really drives home how much these characters are changing because of their interactions with each other. David's not as like strictly spiritual anymore, and why am I blanking on his name? He's not, yes, he still holds on to the science, but he still also he can also see a bit more of David's side of things, and it's fun to see their dynamic just continue to grow. Yeah, let's just see where this season goes, because man, it's going places.
It is going places. How dare you not remember the name of Ben Shakur, who you
I
nominated
don't know why.
for the GOAT?
Listen. Here's my major excuse for this. I have had a total of 10 hours of sleep this entire week. So when my brain is tired, I don't even remember the names of my favorite characters, which is so sad. I'm so sorry, Ben. You can totally like come and smite me. I don't care. No, I'm horrible. I was just like, why am I blanking? Oh, anyway.
Sorry, Asif Mandi, who reacted to us on TikTok. We're very sorry.
Yeah, so I kept thinking of that reaction while I'm watching this episode. I'm like, oh yeah, we're back with the show, we're cool. He knows about us.
He does know about us.
He could have just moved on after liking the video. No, he duetted the video.
He was just
like, I'm going to agree with everything you guys are saying. This is our unofficial plea, sir. Come on the podcast and talk to us. Never gonna happen in a million years.
Never gonna happen. I don't know what I'd do if it did happen.
Could you? Oh, anyways, but no, it's so great to have this show back. I'm intrigued to see. The thing that really fascinated me was the Andy situation where he's like doing he's um putting the wood planks down on the floor, and he gets the call from Leland, and Leland says a series of random words and that come into a coherent sentence, but it doesn't make sense, and all of a sudden he shows up where David's supposed to be and causes some problems, and it's like, what? Leland, how the fuck do you know shit? Oh, Michael Emerson, you were not physically in the episode very much at all, but man, your voice was everywhere.
Yes. But to yes, and what you said, it is that they are reacting and learning from each other, but also, and this is very like in the X-Files mode of like seeing like the weird and spooky things and changing based on those things, where it's almost it's an escalation from like Scully, where it's like Scully would continuously see aliens and then pretend she had never seen an alien before in her life. And here, like you have like Ben and Kristen being like, "Yes, spooky, creepy things are happening," and I'm not gonna. Yes, they're happening. Okay,
Right.
I can't just like close my eyes and go la 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 at that.
You can't? I'm pretty sure you can.
You could. There's a certain. I feel like there's a certain point where the human brain goes, "All right, this has occurred too many times."
I'm not gonna lie, the initial video that I don't know my titles within the church, but that when he shows them that video, I literally was like, this seems very Psycho-esque. I was like, stabbing with the crazy sound. I'm like, this is Psycho. What are you doing? Also, coming off the cusp of Young Sheldon ending, like seeing him on this show, I'm just like, sir, you are a scientist. Why are you being all spiritual? Why are you part of the church?
Yeah, Wallace Shawn just so delightfully weird.
Yeah.
Especially in this episode.
The girls were also very minimal in the episode, but like when they were there, it was cute and kind of funny until it wasn't. As always, because the one daughter is always doing something weird.
I do kind of love this as a reaction to the criticism that the girls talk too much and are too loud and they're annoying, which I don't agree with, but I love the girls.
I don't. Yeah, they're preteen girls. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
They're funny and silly and yeah, whatever. People are dumb.
They get into ridiculous hijinks. Like, they're great. I have no notes about the girls.
Right, exactly.
But I do like this as a kind of reaction to that criticism of like, we just won't have them talk.
I actually, and then I was like, I miss that. Like, please start talking. I miss your voices. Please start. It's getting weird. The other thing I find that I like because it absolutely sets up more to come. You know, that's the great thing about this. Like, yes, this show does like case of the week kind of stuff, but they also do little subtle things that lead into bigger things along the way. And the date thing between David and Kristen, them both having significant things that are supposed to happen on a specific date, and it's like, oh, there's something up with that. We need to remember that date, and I've already since forgotten. Brain tired.
Yeah. Speaking of Kristen, Katya Herbers is giving an all-time performance in this episode. Like, it's just so good. We are witnessing a character who's becoming more and more unhinged as time goes on. And it's just so delightful.
And you're realizing how unreliable of a narrator she is in her aspects of the episode. Like, you're like, what is really happening? Like, you have to sit there and question yourself because she's not 100% good mental health right now. Like,
no, yeah, she is not fully there. And I love her reaction to to Leland and the baby. Just it's so much better than anything I had expected to happen. Like
Yeah.
it is a magnitude of times greater than her like losing her shit. Her just laughing at him is so good.
And then bringing it back up again later, again, this the whole date thing. Like, you can tell that she doesn't really believe the date thing, because she's like, she jokingly says to David, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm having a baby that day." Like, huh. Like, she literally, like, hands kind of waving around, body shaking, like, haha, like, what a big joke. And it's just like, oh, it's so funny. You used to be so composed. Leland has driven you over the edge.
Mm.
So glad this show is back. So good. And I feel like not enough people watch it. Like, that's the thing that bugs me. I'm like, I rarely see people talk about it. I'm like, this is such a good show.
Yeah.
Like, more people need to be watching it and talking about it, because it's so good.
Guys, this is the scariest show on TV.
Because they do the subtle scary. Like, they do those things that are like, oh yeah, that's gonna give me nightmares. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna be hearing that sound from that bunker for weeks. Like, that sound is gonna just come up randomly.
Yeah.
If not for the scariness, like, tune in for the characters. The chemistry is just off the charts between these three actors. Like,
Yeah.
it's just insane.
So let's move on. Matt, do you want to talk about 911?
I did, just very briefly. I actually, not necessarily about 911, but also about the importance of character death on a show. Like, so for those that watch 911, you know what I'm going to be talking about, but like those that haven't watched, the penultimate episode was this week, and all season long they've kind of been building up towards something happening with Bobby Nash's like mental health. And, he's from the beginning of this series, he's always had this major guilt on his shoulders about this fire that happened years ago with his that killed his wife and his kids, and he was the cause of the fire. So like, it's kind of been at the back of our minds this whole time, and this season they really kept bringing it back up, and I was like, oh, that's gonna like be a big thing, that's gonna be like significant thing. And it becomes like a big part of this penultimate episode, and we get to see Bobby kind of like do a full circle closure on his character arc, which doesn't happen very often with characters. And so like, you're getting this idea that like, oh, okay, he's either going to leave the show and like retire and walk away and be happy, walk off into the sunset, or he's going to die. Like, these are the two things, because there's nowhere else for this character to go, because he has done his full circle. He's, he's found absolution for himself. He's learned how to accept the love that he's now receiving from his wife and his fire family. It's great. The problem I'm having, because the end of the episode is he saves his wife from their burning house and then keels over from cardiac arrest. Like, very This Is Us style. Not gonna lie, like, it was very reminiscent of This Is Us. But where you think, oh, everything's great, and then he keels over, whatever. But also Peter Krause, again, having a character that has a silent but deadly kind of medical situation go on, because on 6 Feet Under his character had a stroke that killed him. But anyways, it's very up in the air right now whether or not Bobby's really gonna die. And I'm very much in the camp of he needs to die, because if you undo that whole arc of this penultimate episode of him saying goodbye to everybody and doing these putting his affairs in order situations, you're going to ruin the stakes of this show. Like, you're just gonna, I'm not gonna want to watch. But there are so many people on the internet that are like, I swear to God, I'll stop watching if he dies. And I'm like, you don't understand the importance of character deaths. Does it suck? Abso-fucking-lutely. I love Bobby. He's one of my favorite characters. But sometimes characters have to die to move the story forward. And this story needs to move forward. And unfortunately, I feel like it needs to move forward without Bobby Nash, because I feel like it's enough of an impact that the whole Firehouse is going to have to pick up the pieces and figure themselves out. Are they going to do it? I guess we'll find out next week.
Let's move on to Doctor Who season 1, episode 3. Boom.
Technically, it's episode 4 because they count the Christmas episode as one.
Ah, whatever.
I have to be that person in your life
like,
that you want to.
No other Doctor Who did that. I don't.
I know. You know what's interesting? Speaking of Doctor Who, we had this conversation. Me and one of my closest friends, who is also like a huge Doctor Who fan, and she's like, "I just don't like that this season feels Disney-fied," and I'm like, "Of course it does. It's on Disney." Like, but she's like, I just feel like it keeps trying to like really hammer home, oh, look, this is the commentary we're having. It's not you can understand it on your own. It's like they have to point it out to us. And it's like, no, you don't need to.
I feel like Doctor Who has always done that.
I feel like it's gotten even worse though this season. Like I feel like it's just I don't know. That's not to say I haven't enjoyed myself. I've definitely enjoyed myself. I just do feel like sometimes they're really like hitting us over the head with it. And it's like, okay, you could take it.
I mean, is that the Disneyfication, or is that this is our first season?
I think it's the Disneyfication of it.
I would say I would say it's more this is our first season and we're trying to figure out how to write this character.
Maybe I don't know.
Like what you're describing just feels like typical first season jitters, you know, like because like every doctor every new doctor has this thing where it's like, we're doing a growing period. We're trying to figure out how exactly this doctor fits into like Doctor Who canon, and how the acting supports the writing and vice versa. So this feels very of a piece of Doctor Who. Of like, yeah, it's not maybe as elegant as Doctor Who typically is, because like that's how this works.
Speaking of this episode specifically, I want to say one thing. Moffat as a showrunner sucks. Moffat as a writer, one of the strongest writers that Doctor Who's ever had. Like, he's really good at writing, you know, episodes here and there. Trying to do a show, running the whole show, you suck at it, bro. And that is my thoughts on Moffat. Like, because this episode was written by Moffat, and it's definitely a really good episode. The stakes are really high. I honestly felt like I was about 2 seconds away from an anxiety attack every other minute. That's what happens when you're standing on a landmine. Very, very compelling episode. And very much a commentary on AI. Like the drawbacks of like having AI. Because, you know, the machine is like, oh, you're blind, therefore you are not you are like, this is deadly, this is not good. And it's like, ma'am, he's gonna be fine in 4 hours. What? like, you know, AI has its limitations, and this machine proves that with how it's like, okay, well, this is the parameters that have been put into my database, therefore this doesn't meet the parameters, therefore I'm going to exterminate you.
yeah Well, it was made even better when I kept on seeing people from this week like putting things into like Google's AI and being like, what is Psycho? And the AI will be like, Psycho is based on is inspired from stories from 1966, 1971, 1989. And it's one of those things where you're like, I'm going to take a leap and say some of that is wrong.
I'm not a fan of Google's new AI. Like, I really am not. Like, when I put a question into Google, I don't need you to generate an AI answer for me. I just need a website that's going to give me that answer that I can find on my own.
Right.
Like, please don't try to AI that for me, because you're wrong half the time.
I forget what the website was, but some like entertainment website had a Star Wars chronology that was written by AI, and it was wildly and hilariously wrong. The Force Awakens was like at the top. Like, what are we doing here? What's going on? But yeah, it's definitely a commentary on AI. Also, a commentary on like war profiteering.
I wonder how relevant that is. Definitely one of the more darker episodes, which I do appreciate about Russell T Davies as a showrunner is that he has a good grasp on having that balance of fun and silly, poignant, and just downright terrifyingly anxiety inducing.
Right. Yes. Yes. What I think this is also. I mean, I don't want to compliment Stephen Moffat too much, but this is
No.
down to the writing of Stephen Moffat of, and this is one of the things that he's really good at is that really feeds into like what Doctor Who has always been like really good at, which is like the really simple things.
Yeah.
The really small detail that you can kind of build an episode around. So, like the Weeping Angels from Blink, something
Yeah.
small that's production wise really easy to move around. Uh, back when Doctor
Mhm.
Who used to have the budget of $5 and a pack of gummy snacks.
The, sh- and a shoestring for good measure.
Yeah, yeah. Or they'd be like, what do we have for a villain? A trash can? Good.
Great.
Trash can and a plunger? Got it.
Got it.
I'll make a meal of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination. Like Moffat's a really good writer, and I think again, don't want to give too much to Moffat, but like him and Russell T Davies working together is a very good dynamic. But you have to give Moffat his limits. Like you can't have him doing every episode, but let him have a piece of the pie every once in a while, and he knocks it out of the park.
No, it's definitely a thing of he needs constraints.
Yeah,
And
less is more.
if you tell Moffat, hey, we only have like this little bit to work with, and Moffat can give you something like, okay, the Doctor is standing on a landmine.
Yeah.
What suspense and drama and
Yep.
commentary can we draw from that?
Right. And then it like expands to, oh, now he has become the thing, he's become infected. Okay, now Ruby's in trouble and he can't even move to try and help her. And it's just a combination of all that and then that finality of them finally triggering the landmine to be turned off and like having that sigh of relief like oh okay, but you know that things are going to be better when the snow shows up and the doctor even mentions that he's like well the last time there was snow and so like now we realize that that's going to be a recurring theme with this companion is snow and this is going to play heavily into determining how the case is going to work out, and I
Right.
like that. Like it's very small, it's very subtle, but it's strong enough that we're like, oh, we'll recognize it every time it happens.
How do you feel about the detail? Because I saw some people talking about this online of Ruby, this being 6 months in, but Ruby has not visited a alien planet before.
I don't know. Like I didn't really think about it.
It's yeah. My feeling is it's
It's
fine.
it's whatever. Because here's my thing that like the doctor can go anywhere, and for those first couple months, it was very like especially those first couple episodes, it's very obvious that he was going off what she wanted to do,
mm-hmm.
and so like her imagination is very limited. And so she's just like, she's not even thinking, oh, there's millions of worlds out there. Like, she's literally like, oh, why don't we just go to a different time? Oh, why don't we just go over to this location? Like, that's what she's thinking. And like, he's now taking over the reins and saying, why don't we go here? And she comes out and she's like, where are we? And he's like, oh, yeah, we're in a new planet. You've never seen this before. Like, it's to me, it's not a problem. Like I feel like he was easing her into it because she was very hesitant to join him in the first place.
Right.
And I think that's helping their dynamic and their trust of each other.
And it's also we don't know if that's 6 months like showtime or just like Ruby time because it's very common for companions to like just be on Earth a little bit and not like constantly traveling with the Doctor. and Ruby especially a person who has been characterized as liking being on Earth and in her time.
Yeah, she has a very strong connection to her mother. She wants to be with her mother as often as she possibly can, but she also does want to go on these adventures because she finds them fascinating and exciting. And so, like, I think there's a good balance of it, and there's a good chance that the doctor was just like, hey, um, you can go hang out with your mom for a while. I'll come get you after I go do this thing. Like, like
Right.
he doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to have her around all the time, especially this version of the doctor. I think, now that he is quote unquote split from he has split his memories, his brain, his emotions, all that stuff. Like, he's a lot more carefree, and so he's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do my thing, you do your thing, we'll meet up when we want to.
Right.
And I think that is a different dynamic than we've ever really seen before, which is going to be interesting.
We saw a little bit of a similar thing with like Peter Capaldi's Doctor.
That's true.
Of like 12 would just like, leave Clara on Earth for a while, or leave who I forget the name of the girl from his last season, but would just like leave them around for a little bit. Bill,
Mm-hmm.
Bill, he would just leave Bill for a little bit and just be like, okay, we'll come back later.
But I think with those characters, it was more of not necessarily that they really, really wanted to be there, but like he was just like, you know what, let's take a break for a bit, But with Ruby, it's definitely a desire to have more balance, work life balance.
Right.
So to speak. She's like, Doctor, I like you, but man, my mother still needs me, so see ya, bye.
I got stuff to do.
I'm very intrigued to see how their dynamic plays out the more time they spend together. Because I do still feel like Ruby and the Doctor are getting to know each other still. And so it's still rose-colored glasses right now. But I have a feeling like there's going to be something that's going to create a conflict. Not like a big conflict, but like a disagreement of some kind. And Ruby's not necessarily a person that's going to just back down. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Right.
If it does ever play out. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying that it will, but
let's move on here to Interview with the Vampire, season 2, episode 2. Do you know what it means to be loved by death?
Yeah, do you know what it means to be loved by death?
I do not know what it means to be loved by death, since I did not watch this episode.
I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't really want to spoil it for you, but like I did enjoy the introduction to the Parisian vampires in this episode and the theatricality of them. Like, they are over the top. Like, insane. Like, full on lose their goddamn minds. Insane. But in a fun way. And this is where we first see Louis and Armand meet up with each other. And it's funny to see the dynamic now with the interview because they're both engaging with Daniel in the interview now. And so, Armand says, a snide comment about the fact that Louis and Claudia are American vampires, therefore they didn't have the wherewithal to present themselves to us, the Parisian vampire camp. Like, you were supposed to tell us you were in town the moment you enter town. You were supposed to, ingratiate yourself to us, and instead we didn't see you guys for 5 months. Like, you were in our town, we knew you were in our town, you were killing people, and you did not speak to us until 5 months. And Louis is like, how the fuck was I supposed to know that, bro? Like, literally, like, in his own way, obviously, but like, he literally kind of like turns to Armand and he's like, how the fuck was I supposed to know? Like, I'm, as you said, a stupid American. Like, I don't know these customs. So it's like, it's a fun, there's a little bit more lightheartedness to this episode, and I do enjoy that, because with this show you have to have an episode here and there that just goes balls to the walls, chaos theory, insane. And that's a little bit of this. Like, I mentioned off recording that there's a moment where Daniel realizes they've both intimately know Lestat. And he's like, so wait, you also had sex with Lestat? And he like looks at Louis like Louis should be offended considering this is his current partner. And Louis like, yeah, but they weren't compatible. Like he was just like, it is what it is. Like whatever. Like it was just so funny. And then there's a moment later on the episode where Claudia is hanging out with the Parisian vampires after their play that they performed for the Parisians that bought tickets, and she sees a painting of Lestat up on the wall, and they're trying to pretend like they don't know who Lestat is because obviously they've killed him, and they don't want these guys especially to know, because that could put them in hot water. And so she's like, oh, who is that up there on the wall? Like she just like, and it was such an entertaining episode, and I just can't wait for you to commentate on how unhinged these vampire performers are, because my god. Unhinged. But the best line of the episode goes to Daniel. He said, I should have seen that coming. I did not see that coming. I just love Daniel. He's such a joy. He's a great character. I can't remember the name of that actor, but he brings a level to this character that is just so fun, and it's just like, oh, little human. Little human. But yeah, I'm ready for more, and I'm ready for you to see this episode because it's great.
Let's move on to Pretty Little Liars Summer School, episode 4, When a Stranger Calls Back, which is an episode I also was not able to watch this week.
I watched it, but I didn't remember. I wouldn't be able to tell you too much about it because I got to rewatch it. I will say, I always love a good product placement in episodes, and the one that I noticed in this one was there's a moment where, Farron, is that her name? Yeah, Farron is contacted by A, and A kind of like challenges her to something, a physical type of activity, because she's been working out and she's raring to go for a fight. Like she's like wants to prove that she can defend the shit out of her life. So like A presents this situation to her, and she's lifting this like big metal crossbeam, and it pans to her whole outfit, but like I see her shoes, and they're the exact brand of shoe that I wear, and they're Hoka's, and they're very comfortable, and they got good traction. So good job, Farron, you wore the perfect shoes for that kind of task. She's successful at the task. But other than that, like I don't remember a whole lot. I do know that there's one point where Imogen is babysitting her daughter, and Ice Cream Shop Boy is hanging out with her because, as he keeps bringing up, it's not like I got anything else to do. You ruined my reputation. Oh, and she's also like being very like clingy to the doctor, the
Right.
the psychiatrist, Dr. Sullivan, because the day of Mouse's party, she got shoved down some stairs, and she's in the hospital with a broken leg. So like Imogen's been doing this weird thing where like she's like hanging out with her at the hospital. So like, whatever. I can't really tell you what anyone else was up to because I don't remember. This will be a rewatch episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
because
we'll talk about this more later.
I failed miserably. But the show continues to be scary, terrifying. Oh my god.
Let's move on to our last show here. Abbott Elementary, Season 3, Episode 14, Party. And this is the season finale.
And finally, Janine and Gregory. God, it took them so long to get there.
I did love the interview that the actor who plays Gregory gave, where the interviewer was like, "So you gave this thing recently where you're like you don't really believe that they'll ever get together," and the actor was like, "Oh yeah, I was lying. That was a
I was
lie."
lying through my teeth. Yeah, yeah, I get that. It's so funny. Like, I love people that are that when that kind of stuff happens.
I love it
Um,
when like show and underscore actors lie. Like it's so funny.
it's so great. Like,
Like if you ever go back and look at like the stuff that like Damon Lindelof said during while Lost was on the air, just
uh
egregiously lying all the time.
right. Well, it's also I also love when actors like slip up on social media about things and then they have to quickly delete it, but the internet is forever. So like people have already screenshot that shit.
Yep.
It's like you can delete it, sir, but we have a screenshot. It exists. But no, this it's been a long time coming with this. But I want to say my and while that was great, I think my favorite thing about this episode is Janine planning this party to the T based on the personalities of everyone she works with. And it's like, girl, you are genius. Like, she clearly pays attention. And this really shows how much she pays attention. Because, like, she's like, oh, yeah, she set the time for 8. And she knew Melissa and Barbara are going to show up early and want to clean up her place. So she makes sure that the place is dirty on purpose. She makes sure that there's an area for Ava to make out with somebody. she, she plans all these things, and it's just Janine's way of showing love and appreciation to her friends. And I don't know, I just loved it. It was so heartwarming. Such a good episode.
Well, like we talk a lot about like Gregory possibly being autistic, but like this is the most autistic thing I can. Like
Yeah.
I will plan this out so perfectly and so precisely, and I will not allow for any of this to go off the rails.
Yeah, because she gets very bent out of shape when people move around the parameters of each section of the party, or they change up a detail about the section they're in, or they're in the wrong section doing the wrong thing, and she's like getting bent out of shape. And less um Mr. Johnson for being like, just have fun, just have fun, like relax, have fun, just do it, like. He is a man of all talents.
He truly is. But also, your apartment's too small. Like it's just too small. Like it's just
Yeah,
I don't know
bro,
what
your
you're thinking.
apartment is too small.
Like it's just it's not happening. Also, does no one else in that building live there? Like, is it just her? Like,
Also, I love the how she sets up the movie area, right? She's like, I want a movie that's compelling but not too compelling, because she's like doesn't want people to linger in certain areas for too long, right?
mm-hmm.
And so like she's like, we are the Millers, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I would sit there be sat for that movie the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about. I love that movie. Like it's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous movie, but like I get where she was going with it, and I love it even better that she goes in there, she hears Wakanda Forever, and she's like, God damn it. She's like, if you don't want people changing up the movie, Janine, don't make it available.
No,
like,
no.
Lesson learned.
It's also the most wild composition of a party I've ever seen. Like you don't, Janine, what are you doing? You don't mix friend groups like this.
Yeah, no, we don't mix friend groups.
You don't invite people's exes. You don't invite. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Girl, you've clearly never been to a party in your life. Like, but I do love that she had bought specific alcohol for Barbara, and Barbara just ignores it and goes straight for the whiskey combos. And I'm like, go for it, Barbara. Like, just let it out. Like, I think this is the loosest, most unhinged we've ever seen Barbara.
Drunk Barbara
And it's
is
great.
so funny.
Her dancing with the cardboard cutout.
Like, pirate Barbara is so funny.
Yeah.
I just can't get over it.
Oh, such a good closure to the season. Like,
Yes.
it shows that, like, Janine has truly become more central to the friend group, um by showing how much each of these people care about her, in their ways, and how she reflects that by giving them things that she knows they care about. And so it's beautiful to see that. Like, I love it. I still can't believe she's friends with those schmoes from the board. Like, girl, like, they're lame. Why are you still friends with them?
I
Like,
love the people from the board.
I mean, I like Manny, but he's still kind of lame. Like,
Maddie's funny. The girl, I forget her name.
oh my god, I forget what the conversation was, but I just remember her being like, "Well, I'm a lesbian, so." And I'm just
Oh
like,
no,
"Girl, yes."
it was about Kristen Stewart. Um,
Oh right, yes.
which is just so good.
But that just whole casual, "Oh, well, I'm a lesbian, so." like,
Yeah,
duh.
but no, the actress Kimia is a kind of regular on other Dropout stuff.
Uh-huh.
So like she's on like a bunch of like Dropouts other shows. I see her all the time. So it's really cool to see her showing up on Abbott Elementary all the time.
You're like, we're moving up in the
We are.
world.
It's very good.
I always like that when I see someone on like this very niche thing that I like show up on like a network television thing. I'm like, good job, good for you. You booked that job.
Exactly. Yeah. Like she's been on a bunch of episodes of like Make Some Noise, and I'm
Mhm.
really happy that she showed up here. That reminds me, and I forgot to mention this during the news. Um, but so Dropout's other show, Make Some Noise, which is like very much like a prompt based improv show, like in the vein of like Whose
Mhm.
Line Is It Anyway? Put out their
Mhm.
trailer for their next season, and it has like
I love that show.
and it has like Paul F. Tompkins and Ben Schwartz and Rachel Bloom showing up this
Oh my
season,
god, it's gonna be so great.
and I'm so excited. Um,
It's gonna be so unhinged. I love it.
oh my god, like
It's gonna be so good.
they had Wayne Brady on last season, and it's so
Yeah.
good. Oh my god, I love
It's funny because, like, before I started recording with you and you like started to mention Dropout, like, I never really thought about Make Some Noise being part of Dropout, because like I see it on other other like social media formats and things like that. So like that's how I've watched it, but like
right.
it's so cool that I'm like, "Oh, I know what Dropout is now." Like, I know I know where this comes from and all that stuff, but like, no, I love Make Some Noise. It's
Oh,
so good.
it's so good.
It's hilarious every single time.
Oh, Brennan's episodes are stellar.
You never know what you're going to get from any of the people that are on it. And so like living in the chaos of the moment,
So it's
wonderful.
so funny.
So much fun. I do love Brennan's episodes. Like, I'm just like, he shows up and I'm like, the master has arrived.
That's right. Yeah, like the episodes with him and Zach are so funny.
Yes. So, also speaking of Dimension 20, I again, this kind of creeps me out how how social media internet ads do this. But I saw an ad for Matthew Mayer doing something and I'm like, "Oh, I know who you are now." He was going to be at some con and I'm just like, "I am not interested in this con, but I'm interested in him." Thank you internet for being weird again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I was just like, I know that man.
I mean,
That is my new pal.
yeah, because really, as far as the internet is concerned, there are only two D&D dungeon masters. It's Brennan and Matt Mercer.
Or Matt Mercer, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
would say. Yeah,
I knew who you're
truly.
talking about.
Yeah. I got the first letter right.
I understood.
I was like, wait. After I said it, I was like, that's not right. But I know Drew's gonna know who it
I
is.
know
But
exactly.
Matt Mayer is from Our Flag. That's
Yeah.
where I went wrong. Matt Mayer's a real guy. Anyway, but Matt Mercer, yeah, like,
But yeah, like
love him.
Matt Mercer's like top 5 most noticeable D&D people on the internet. So like,
Yeah. I think it was like Anime NYC or something like that, and I was like, that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, they were like listing his credits, and I was like, oh, he's been in a lot of shit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah.
One of Dimension one of Dropout's other shows. I think it's called Dirty Laundry. But I think I talked about that last week. But Dirty Laundry is a show where like people just like show up and like spill secrets about each other.
I need to watch this.
And Matt Mercer was on an episode, and he gave a director shit about a movie, and I can't remember what the movie was or who the director was, but it was really funny. And he was just like, "What happened, man?"
I love it. Oh,
it's
love it.
It's really funny. Hang on, I wonder if I can find.
He seems like a really cool dude.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Wonder if I could find. Oh, he gave Sam Raimi shit about Spider-Man 3.
Oh.
he just met Sam Raimi at a party once, and he was like, "What happened to Spider-Man 3, man?"
That's hilarious. I love it. Love it. I want to go into everything with that kind of energy.
Yes.
Like, I've just met you, but I'm gonna give you shit about something. this thing that you're well known for. I'm gonna give you shit about it. So speaking of Spider-Man, slightly off topic, but I saw this clip from Alfred Molina today about how he was like contracted for 3 Spider-Man entities within the universe, as Doc Ock. And he was like, I did the one movie and I died, so I just was like, oh, well, that's it. Then I guess the other 2 are null and void, whatever. And he's like, and I remember talking to I forget, he said the name of the director for the Spider-Man, where all of them came back. And he's like, and he approached me and he's like, well, you want to do this? And he goes, well, I thought I died. And he goes, nobody dies in this universe. And he's like, you know what? I like that. I like that. I can come back at any time. I was like, I love you, Alfred Molina. You're just amazing. Like, he's like a kid in a candy store. Like, I just love him. Always. What? No one dies in this universe. Oh, that could be said about so many things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's it for this week. We will be back. When we're back, we'll be talking about My Adventures with Superman, for one, and whatever else we saw at ATX, which will be a few things. So, good fun. Until then, Matt, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DorothyNYC89, and you can find me on Tumblr, Mads World 15. I talk a lot of fandom shit on Tumblr, so come find me.
Nice. And you can follow me on Twitter at the Draconic, and you can find me on Blue Sky and pretty much everywhere else at Draconic. And you can find the podcast on pretty much every social media platform at None of the TV Podcast. And you can email us at noneofthetvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, or anything else that you'd like to give us. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple and YouTube, along with whatever other podcasting device you use, including Spotify. You can also find previous episodes on our Libsyn feed at libsyn.com/NoneOfTheTV podcast. Be sure to leave us a review and subscribe, and share us on all your socials. Until next week, please remember, don't go in the ocean. None of your business. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.